to date, we've composted about 2.4 million pounds of food scraps since we started in February of 2022.
Welcome to the Home Comfort Zone podcast. I'm Theresa, Marketing Manager at All Comfort Services. And today I have Ben Stanger from the Green Box Compost. Welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Theresa.
So we were just talking about how you got started, and tell me something about, you said you saw yourself just recently talking to other composting companies, and remembered what it was like for you when you first started. What was that like?
Days, yeah. I mean, it was definitely a lot harder. There's a lot more of us working at Greenbox now. So back then, I started the company. We started collections in February of 2022. So it's been about 3.5 years. And back then, it was just me, and then very shortly after, one of my good friends from college started there with me as well. But it was just like the two of us at that time. And I was working 7 days a week, 5 days a week, driving routes and composting. The other 2 days a week going to farmers markets or other kind of engagements to get in front of people to kind of talk about composting with them and why they should, compost with us. Yeah, we grew really quickly back then, but it was hot and sweaty and kind of thankless at the beginning for sure. But I started the company. I'd worked at a different composter in Chicago for about 2 years, and we grew very quickly over the beginning of the pandemic. I have always cared about sustainability, and I'm from the Madison area, and just seeing that happen in Chicago really opened my eyes to the possibilities, and I just decided to move back into my parents' basement for about a year, and try and get all my...
With purpose, though.
With purpose, yeah. It wasn't like, I felt better about that. I think if it had been another way, I would have been a little bit down on myself, but I definitely felt, I still got a little stir crazy there, but it was nice to be able to kind of start from scratch and take that year to kind of like get everything together before I started Greenbox in 2022.
So what are you composting?
Yeah, so that's one of the great things. I'll send you a photo, maybe you can edit in here, but we have a big in-vessel composter. So picture one of those like crank composting setups you see in somebody's yard, but like 1,000 times the size. So we grind everything up in an agricultural mixer made for like animal feed. And then it goes into that drum, and that rotates for about 5 weeks, and then it comes out the other side pretty much finished compost. And so with that really efficient process, we're able to take all sorts of food scraps. So normally you could, like in your backyard, you could do like veggie peels, fruit peels, maybe a little bit of like cooked food if you really wanted to test it a little bit. But we can also take meat, bones, dairy, compostable products, so things that are certified industrially compostable. So we can take everything, and that's a big selling point for our members, I think. Yeah.
Are you more of a residential, or do you provide services for municipalities for roadkill, or
Yeah, so that's a good question. We started off. I thought we'd mostly be residential. It's a lot simpler than larger scale composting, and we have about 1,000 residential members in the Madison area right now. But we also compost for about 50 businesses, including Epic, Exact Sciences, UW Health, Willie Street Co-op, American Family Insurance, many others, restaurants and coffee shops and such. And so all of those combined, we compost about 35,000 pounds of food scraps per week, which is up from, when I first started 3.5 years ago, we were composting maybe 250 pounds a week with 20 members, and now we've grown quite a bit since then.
So there must be some demand for that.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been really cool because when we first started, when I was going to those farmers markets, we got great feedback. There's like a pent up demand for this, and I think we're kind of starting to crest that wave, and kind of we've taken all the people who are ready to compost, and really we're looking for that, which is awesome. But now I think we're at the point where we're working with businesses mostly who I think initially weren't planning on composting, and now we're starting to like kind of turn people who were maybe on that fence and make it really viable for them. So that's what I'm really excited about, is starting to move away from like people who, not move away from them, but like we're people who want to compost already composting, and now we're convincing new people to compost, which I'm really excited about.
So how simple is it for a homeowner to participate?
Pretty simple. I mean, you just log on to our website, www.withgreenbox.com. I'm sure there'll be a link. And you just click sign up. You fill out you put in your address, payment method. It's $26 a month. Actually, maybe we'll give you a discount code to put at the bottom here if you want or something. Yeah, you sign up, you'll get a confirmation email. We'll drop off the bucket within, a few days after that. And we pick up every other week.
So you get a bucket. How big is that bucket?
It's a 4-gallon bucket. We pick it up every other week. I'd say most people compost about 10 pounds in that 2-week period. It can hold probably about 30 pounds of food scraps, but only our super users use that. But if you need more...
big families.
Yeah, exactly. Big families, people who cook
apartments,
a lot. Yeah. So we do apartments, we do single-family homes. We like to work with apartment buildings to try and make it easier, so we'll talk with building management to find a good location for you. We really try to eliminate all of the possible barriers to composting in a city environment. So like I said, we'll work with apartment management. We swap out buckets, so you get a clean bucket each time, so you don't have to deal with kind of like the ick factor. The buckets are lined. If you want, you can get a countertop caddy that you can also put liners into that are all compostable. So we really try to make it, as easy as possible. If there are questions, you can email us. We'll let you know, like, yes, avocado pits are compostable with us, or when's my next service? You can find that. There's also a member portal. You can see how much you've composted with us, like in weight. When your next service is, you can order compostable products from the store, things like that.
Have you gotten any feedback from the waste management in the Madison area of how much waste has been taken out of the waste stream?
Well, I know we weigh everything because people want to know how much. So to date, we've composted about 2.4 million pounds of food scraps since we started in February of 2022. And, a big chunk of that has we're growing, our diversion has grown about exponentially, give or take. So now, like I said, we're composting 35,000 pounds per week. So it takes, it'll take 4 weeks to get past that 2.5 million pound mark. So I think at the rate we're growing, I believe that in 2026 we'll compost 1 million pounds in 1 year for sure, maybe almost 2.
Wow. Yeah. No, the burning question is, what do you do with it once you bring it back?
That's a good question, yeah. So again, I kind of described that in-vessel composting system where we have a big, again, hopefully there'll be an image here, a big mixer, which is like a big scary blender, basically. We dump all the food scraps in there along with carbon, which, food scraps are very nitrogen rich. For good compost, you need the right ratio of carbon to nitrogen. And so we balance out that nitrogen in the food scraps with sawdust, wood chips, cardboard, this stuff called biochar, it's basically charcoal, and other carbon-rich materials. We blend and grind all of that together, and that goes into the rotating drum, again, hopefully visual here, that turns every 2 hours to kind of re-fluff up that material and allow pathways for air to really make a good environment for the composting process. And that takes about 5 weeks. And then once we're done with that, it goes into bunkers that we flip every week to kind of keep that process going slowly. And after, I'd say about 4 months, we're ready to screen. So we sift out any plastic that it might have gotten through, any larger wood chips, bones that have made it through, things like that. And then we donate some of that back to schools or food pantry gardens or things like that. We give some compost back to our members, about 10 gallons a year, and then the rest we sell. Yeah.
You sell it off your website, or do you have a location?
Yeah, we sell it off our website. You can either pick it up or we bring it to you. Yeah.
It sounds like a win-win situation for
Yeah, hopefully, and that's a really kind of the thing I love about composting is it's like the most local recycling you can get. I mean, you can see this whole process. It's super transparent. We have tours of our warehouse all the time, and it really is. You can do it in your backyard. It can be that local, but we're here if you don't want to go quite that local. You can do it in Sun Prairie instead of your backyard.
How common is this in cities around the U.S. now?
That's a good question. I mean, my goal, you asked about municipalities a little bit ago. My goal is to eventually start working more and more with municipalities directly. We have a relationship with the Village of Oregon, just south of here a little bit. Mm-hmm. They have a subsidized program that their village board directors, I think that's what it is, voted in, that makes it so it's only $13 a month to compost with us, as opposed to the $26 a month that it normally is. And that's just subsidized by the village itself. And then we have a USDA grant to work with Sun Prairie, very similar program. And so my hope is that we can kind of build on that to replicate some things that we've seen in other, like the East and West Coast, basically. You see it more and more common. Massachusetts, I think, is a great example of there's a pretty good composting infrastructure created by a lot of smaller companies, and eventually the state legislature decided to ban certain volumes of food scraps from going into the landfill, similar to how we have a yard waste ban here in Wisconsin. So it's getting more and more common. California's passed a similar law mandating all organics stay out of the landfill 2 or 3 years ago. So it's getting more common, and my hope is that we can be part of a process of getting that in the Midwest as well.
Are there any other companies like you in Wisconsin?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few. There's one in Milwaukee, one in Stevens Point. There's actually 2 other ones here in Madison that are a little bit smaller than us now. Like I said, I was just talking with that one that company in Rockford that came up to visit me. So they're all over, and it's cool. It's a very collaborative network. I think everybody who's doing this really is passionate about trying to keep this really valuable resource out of the landfills and back, going onto people's gardens and farms and such.
And just to conclude, so where do you want to take your business? Where do you see the business going?
Yeah, my hope is to get to grow it both in breadth and depth. My hope is we get more involved here in Dane County. We compost for more and more households, more and more businesses, and get to work closer with municipalities and governments here. But also expand to more of southern Wisconsin and really just try and get as many people composting as possible. Yeah.
This sounds like it's something all homeowners could benefit from in our listening area. And so, do you serve? What's your reach?
We go to all of the larger municipalities in Dane County. So we go from Middleton out to Cottage Grove. From Windsor and DeForest down to McFarland and Stoughton, Oregon, and all the way out to Mount Horeb. So most of the larger municipalities we service. If you're wondering, you can sign up. It won't let you sign up if you're not in our service area. So if you do try to do that, we will be made aware that you tried to sign up. So maybe we'll expand to your area. Yeah.
Right, that sounds good. Well, you've given us a really easy way to reach you and participate. It sounds like something everybody could do. Right?
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that one of the great things about composting, I think, is that a lot of these questions about sustainability, environmental damage and change and everything, they feel too big for a lot of people to tackle. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can buy solar, you can buy an electric car, things like that, but those are really high price items. Composting, it's pretty easy, and it's something you can engage with every day, kind of small step toward that sustainable lifestyle. So I'm a big fan, obviously.
Yeah, yeah. And me too. That's why I brought you on. I thought that sounded really fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you were able to come out and talk to me, and we could share that information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Thanks, Theresa.